I started wrestling at 10 years old to get his attention.
To get his attention.
I'd always heard what a good wrestler he was and what a tough guy he was.
Right.
So I thought somewhere in my young mind, if I turned out, maybe he'd come around.
There are men who fight for a living, and then there are men who were just built for something greater than any fight. Tonight's guest joined the United States Army at 19, served 6 years in the elite 101st Airborne, went back to school at 25, three-time NCAA All-American wrestler, missed the Olympic Games 4 times. Instead of quitting, he found a cage. At 33 years old, he debuted in the UFC. What he built from there has never been done before or since. First fighter in history to hold championship in 2 different weight classes, 16 title fights, 6 championship reigns, the only person over the age of 40 to win a UFC title fight 4 times, the oldest champion the sport has ever seen. And when the UFC needed a face, when this sport was fighting for its own survival, he stepped up as the first ever coach on The Ultimate Fighter, him and Chuck Liddell, the show that saved the UFC. He didn't just compete in the golden era of the sport, he built it. Affliction, Xtreme Couture, his name, his gym, his brand, the identity of an entire generation of mixed martial arts. 2019, gets a heart attack, walks himself to the ER. Doctor said, dude, you're having a heart attack, 30 more minutes, a different outcome. He walks himself home 2 days later. The racetrack fire 2025, airlifted with first and second degree burns, and still the toughest man we know. But toughness was never the whole story, because after everything this sport and this life put him through, he came back to Las Vegas and built something for men who had nobody. The GI Foundation for Wounded Veterans, MVP, merging vets and players, where fighters and soldiers sweat together, then sit in a circle and talk about what happens when the uniform comes off. He said, I would rather hear from the guy who took the same oath I took than a psychiatrist who wants to tell me how broken I am. 6-time UFC World Champion, Hall of Famer, Army Sergeant, 101st Airborne, icon of the golden era, founder of Xtreme Couture, Hollywood action star, and a man who makes sure no one has to fight alone. Ladies and gentlemen, the natural Randy Couture.
Wow. Thank you.
This is one of those episodes for me where I grew up watching the UFC with my dad, with my family, and you were one of the biggest superstars at that time. And just to obviously I've had other people come in, but it was like the current stars that I knew. But you have something where you do pull a string at my childhood. Wow. And because I grew up watching you, and just when I decided to start MMA at 24, your story was one of the ones where he started at 33. And it's just been absolutely amazing. And so one of the things that I've always wanted to say to you is, and I know you don't, I have the picture of it. It's Bellingham, Washington, 2007. It's my first ever MMA fight. Oh, wow. I get signed up into it. I didn't know what was going on. It's like when you talk too much, you kind of put yourself in a situation you should have never been in, but now you're in that situation. 7 opponent changes. That time, no one's watching it. Nobody knows what's going on. Ryan is the main event on that. You have just won. You are now the UFC champion. Everybody knows Randy Couture is coming to corner Ryan Couture with Ron Fraser. I'm the co-main event. And I am 1 fight away, about to walk out and start having a panic attack. I'm like, I can't do this. Oh, no. I put myself in a fever. I'm throwing up. And you see me and you come up to me like, just enjoy this moment. And I make that walk. And I know you probably don't remember. I remember because I have the picture of that
show.
Yeah, at the Sportsplex. Yeah. I make that walk. I fall in love with the sport. 16-year career, fought around the world. Now I represent your gym around the world, which is full circle. But had you not been in that situation where I was panicking and you were able to just see it and talk to me for a quick minute, you pretty much changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow, that is wild.
And so from there, the first thing I want to jump into is that I know that's how wrestling started for you, because it was a clerical error. You were
Greco for sure.
Yeah,
yes.
The Greco wrestling side.
Yeah.
There was a mistake. So what was that whole story with that?
Well, obviously wrestling started much younger than that. I started at 10.
Right.
My best friend Bobby Stevenson's older brothers were both wrestling in the junior high program at Alderwood Junior High. I was still in 6th grade.
Okay.
I'm still in elementary school. Bobby's like, "Come on, my brothers are wrestling in the district meet. Let's go watch them wrestle." So we went to the meet at the junior high school. His brothers thought they were funny, and they entered Bobby and I in a novice tournament they had. Okay. Never wrestled a day in my life.
Yeah.
Let alone practice.
Right.
And so here I am in this wrestling tournament. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. You know, we're little kids. I was 11 years old.
Right.
I pin a kid with a headlock. I have no idea how I did that. I got my first bloody nose.
Yeah.
And the coach, Coach K. Spear, was running this tournament. He was the junior high school coach. He explained to me what a headlock was and how I pinned this kid. And of course, the next year I roll into 7th grade.
Right.
He's the PE teacher in that same school.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I remember you. Wrestling starts Monday. I'll see you there. And I'm like, okay. But that's what got me on a wrestling mat in the first place. Now you fast forward to my time in the Army. I've got married at 19 years old.
Okay.
I thought wrestling was done for me. Had a kid on the way, Ryan.
Ryan. Okay.
And so I joined the service to support that family. I go through basic at Fort Bliss, Texas, advanced training at Fort Rucker, Alabama as an air traffic controller. My first duty station is Hanau, West Germany.
Okay.
There are 5 million soldiers stationed in West Germany at this time.
Really?
The peak of the Cold War.
Right.
And combative sports like wrestling and boxing were huge for morale.
Yeah.
So I ended up back on a wrestling mat in Germany as a soldier.
Right.
Of course, freestyle is closely related to folk style, where you're doing high crotches and double legs and single legs and all of that. So I started wrestling freestyle. I'd never wrestled Greco. I'd done well enough to qualify for the 5th Corps Championship tournament, which was the area in Germany that I was stationed in. I only entered the freestyle.
Right.
So I'm just coming off a mat after winning a match.
Yeah.
And they're calling my name again. I'm like, I can't be up already. What the hell? And so I run over to the head table. They're like, hey, you're on the Greco bracket as well. Are you going to wrestle or not?
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I walk out on the Greco mat and I end up winning both styles in that championship tournament and qualifying for the U.S. Army Europe Championship in both styles.
In a style that you had never trained in.
And that became the style I was really good at. Well, I feel like I was head and shoulders better in that than I was freestyle.
Right.
And so I basically, through that experience, made a commitment to Greco. I was one of those guys. We have 2 ever at that time world champions in Greco-Roman wrestling. It's not a terribly popular style here in the U.S. So I'm like, well, hell, that's what I want to do then. Nobody else has done it, then I want to do it.
Right.
So I started focusing solely on Greco at that time of my life. And was an alternate on the 88 team as a soldier, going into Seoul. It was my first time kind of cracking into the national rankings in Greco. And college coaches started calling. They're like, who the hell is this kid? Where did he come from?
Right.
And I got no love out of high school as a one-time state champ from Linwood High School in Washington. And now all of a sudden I'm an alternate on the Olympic team. So the phone starts ringing and I got to make a decision. Am I going to stay in the Army at that point after 6 years and 4 of those years wrestling for the Army? Or am I going to get out and take a scholarship somewhere? And Oklahoma State was one of the schools that called me and offered me a scholarship to go wrestle there. And the Army coach, Floyd Winter, it was an amazing guy. And he could have been selfish and tried to convince me I should stay in the Army and keep wrestling for him. But he said, no, man, I think you're crazy if you don't take that scholarship. It'll be better for your family. You get that degree and move forward from there. And you're also crazy if you don't take that offer from Oklahoma State. So he kind of pushed me in the right direction. I rolled out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky in 1988, drove with my family to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and started my collegiate career based on that and immersed myself back in school and back in folk style wrestling. So
it literally started from just a clerical error.
They're calling me out on a Greco mat, and I'm like, what the hell, how?
And the thing is, that's the style that you dominated MMA with.
It's interesting that of all the styles of wrestling, that's the one that translates directly to cage fighting and MMA.
Yeah.
I could have never planned that.
Have you ever looked back on that and just connecting like the universe in that kind of way? Go ahead.
It really dawned on me right in the autobiography.
Okay.
I had to kind of dig up a whole bunch of stuff from years and years of my life. And some of that was very difficult to address again and bring up again. Some of that was really intriguing and interesting, and that was certainly one of the things that stuck out to me. It's like, look at this direction my whole life took, simply because of that one clerical error at the Fifth Corps Championships in Baumholder, Germany.
Yeah, it's like Steve Jobs always said, you never connect the dots looking forward, you always connect it back. And it's like, it's like one of those things.
Yeah, I think it's part of the way we're wired. We tend to focus on that destination, and instead of enjoying each of those steps along the way that got us or may get us to that destination.
And have you noticed that mindset in you kind of later on in life of just kind of enjoying those simple things? Because obviously as fighters, we're always wanting to get to the top. We want to get there and everything.
Yeah.
It's
I think everybody says that when they enter wrestling or fighting, oh, I'm going to be a world champion. And that rolls off the tongue very easily. But getting about drawing the map and doing the work that's actually going to get you to the top of that podium is a much different animal. And it wasn't until I embraced that my senior year in high school to become a state champion. That became that cookie cutter, that mold that I drew that map to be a state champion that year in 1981 at Linwood High School. And, you know, talked to my mom. I shared my goal with her. And I said, Mom, this is going to be really tough working the job at the grocery store, but I still got to pay my car insurance and my gas money to get to and from school and practice. She said, you know what? I believe in you. I'll pay your gas money and your insurance during wrestling season. And freed me up to step back from the grocery store and commit to the other things I thought I had to do to be a state champion. And lo and behold, I found myself on the top of that podium in 1981 at 168 pounds in wrestling. So
a mother's love.
I was like, wow, it worked. I was amazed. I was overwhelmed. And that became the template then for success in my mind. And I started applying that same process to every problem I started running up against. From that Fifth Corps Championship to the U.S. Army Europe Championship to the Inter Service Championship, which ultimately qualified me for the Olympic trials in '88. Those Olympic trials were a big setback, and that's the one goal I never accomplished in my
Does that still keep you up, or you're pretty content?
No, I'm happy with with the way things worked out. Everything happens for a reason.
Of course.
I think if I'd have made that 92 or 96 team when I was the #1 guy in my weight class, I probably would have been content. And I would be a college coach right now somewhere instead of making that foray into MMA. I still had that fire inside me and wanted to prove something. So at 33, almost 34, I walked out out of that tunnel at UFC 13 and won the heavyweight the heavyweight tournament. So
when you came up with that, like, was there people in your circle that were like, Randy, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're 33, man. Like,
my mom was certainly one of those ones. Like, you're going to do what? You know, gives you that look like you've lost your mind again. What is going on? But I just saw the application of years and years of wrestling training and a wrestler's mindset in this new sport, where guys like Don Fry, who was one of my college teammates, were having great success and making an amazing living through all those skills that we developed through years and years of wrestling. So I didn't have any doubts. But my family was like, you're out of your mind.
Like you mentioned that your mom a lot. Was your dad present in this? Like,
my dad was never present.
Your dad,
it was one of the impetuses, you know, I think by 3 years old, I think it was 3 years old, they were divorced. And he rarely showed up. For
Did
anything.
you start wrestling
I started wrestling at 10 years old to get his attention. I'd always heard what a good wrestler he was and what a tough guy he was. So I thought somewhere in my young mind, if I turned out, maybe he'd come around. He never saw me wrestle a single match that I know of in my entire career. We did reconnect later in life as I started fighting, and he came to several fights. But he never saw me wrestle. But I found my place. I found the place I flourished, for sure.
And was that like, when he came to your fights, what was that like? Did it mean something? Was it at that point where you
we were finding common ground to get to know each other.
So after in your 30s.
To get to know each other. Yeah, I didn't reconnect with him until I was 29, almost 30 years old. He moved back to the lower 48 from Alaska. And showed up at Oregon State where I was coaching. And it was a bit weird. You know, I had 2 kids by then, and the kids had never met him. So it was a bit odd. Here's this man that's supposedly your father, and you don't really know him. And we kind of set some ground rules then. I mean, I told him, look, you had your chance to have a relationship with me. If you want one now, you're going to have to put forth some effort. I'm not chasing you anywhere.
Yeah.
I've got a full life and a full plate. I'm not chasing at all. And he made some effort here and there, especially as things progressed, to come see me, to come see, especially my youngest, Caden, my third child.
Yeah.
But that was kind of on him.
Like, obviously that's a negative situation in your life. But would you say a positive outcome came out of that too? Because your fire for wrestling was to get his attention.
Yes.
And you
joined the crazy sport for all the wrong reasons.
All the wrong
and
reasons.
Found my place, the place I seemed to flourish.
Exactly.
Those coaches like Coach K. Spear, you know,
which became your father.
Coach McAvoy, Coach Winter, you know, Coach Say and Coach Smith in college. They became very important guys in my life.
Yeah.
They filled that void for that masculine entity that was going to steer you through the tougher times and give you, you know, give you a hand up through the good times too. So those guys were very important in my life, for sure. And things turned out the way they were supposed to.
Right.
I could have used those things as an excuse to be an asshole
Of course, yeah.
and make a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
I used them as fire to motivate me, to prove them wrong. That was my attitude about it. Oh, you don't want to be around? You don't want? All right, I'll show you.
Right.
And it worked out.
So when you had Ryan, did you take lessons from that relationship with your father and going, I don't want to make...
That was a huge motivator for me to be a big part of Ryan's life. Now, ultimately, unfortunately, we ended up in a divorce as well 11 years later. But I was not going to let Ryan or Amy or Caden, my third child from a second marriage, I wasn't going to let them slide. I wanted to be an influence and a part of their lives, which meant I had to step up and put forth the effort to co-parent, to make those connections, to make those trips. They, you know, Ryan and Amy especially, you know, rode the train a lot from Seattle back down to Oregon, where I was still coaching, to spend weekends with me and time with me. So they embraced some of the burden of that as well, thankfully, and it made it work.
Did those training camps take a toll on your family? Like, you know, obviously training camps are, because I know from my own life, I spend months away from my family here.
Yes.
We live in Vancouver for that moment.
Yeah.
So obviously moments are missed. I just had my son a year ago, and it's completely changed my whole view on whether I want to fight or not. Because those are opportunities, those are moments, milestones that I'm going to miss, I'll never get back.
If I have one regret, it's that time I spent away from them, and that's time none of the three of us will ever get back.
Right.
And if you know, chasing that Olympic dream in wrestling and then chasing being the best in the world at fighting had repercussions. It was in my personal life with my spouses, with my significant others, and that was time away from them and my kids that I will never get back. Now, they will tell you it was worth it. They're all thriving and doing very, very well. There's a legacy there. There's a lot of things there that are positives for them that they've embraced. And yeah, they gave up time with me. They spent a lot of time in gyms and in mats and in training camps that not a lot of, you know.
But still a unique
there's an upside and a
experience.
downside to anything, right?
It's a unique upbringing.
Yes.
I take my son to like jiu-jitsu all the time, and I know there's no other kids there. He's one, and he's just recognizing the mats, and now he's starting to say the word jiu-jitsu before he said any other word. And he'll recognize when we're pulling up to a building, he gets excited, like he knows what the building looks like.
Yeah.
And usually whenever we take him to any kind of like kids gym, he's trying to escape out the door. He doesn't want to be there. But jiu-jitsu, he never wants to leave. He knows once a class ends, you pick up a mop and you mop. So these are like, I'm trying to...
champion in the making right there. And my grandsons, you know, Rhett and Ellis are both putting gis on and do jiu-jitsu now too at 3 and 5. My granddaughter, you know, is going to be 6 here on the 23rd of this month, and she's already naturally got some ability. She's got one of those punching bags, and that right hand, I'm like, oh my God, wow, where did that come from?
You got to make up for some of it because Ryan went into pro fighting. So, like, obviously, like I was telling at the start of this, you were in his corner for that fight. You were there for him.
Yeah, that started with wrestling.
Okay.
And you know, wrestling is a very, very tough, very technical sport as well. And from 7 to 9 at Oklahoma State when he was in first grade, and kindergarten, first grade, second grade. He wrestled for a year there
Right.
in the Y program in Oklahoma, which is very strong.
Right.
And then he left the sport for a while, and I wasn't pushing him. And then in junior high school, we put him through the divorce, and now he's going to turn out for wrestling. And my first concern was, oh my gosh, he's walking out on that mat for the same reason I walked out on that mat. He's trying to get my attention.
Oh, really? You thought that?
And that's what I felt and what I saw. But then I talked to him about it, and I'm, look, Ryan, this is a very tough sport. I'm happy that you're interested in it, because there's no better sport for character building and resilience and all those things that this sport builds. Is the right place for you. But I want you to do it because you love it, because you want to do it, not because of me. And I said, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to coach you. I'm going to take a big step back. I'm going to be at every match I can be at, but I am not going to say a word unless you ask me for opinions, and you ask me for technique or whatever. Otherwise, you've got a coach. I'm going to let him do his job, and I'm going to sit in the stands. I'm not going to be that dad, and I've seen that dad too many times. As a coach, both in high school level and collegiate level, I've met those dads that are living vicariously through their kid, and who may be doing something that they never had the ability to do.
Of course.
It was a burden for him dragging around the same last name, that Couture name, in wrestling and fighting. Here's a guy, I won 4 national titles.
That's got to be a lot of pressure, because when he started, it was a peak of your career too.
Outstanding wrestler a couple times in our country, vying for the Olympic team and wrestling at the highest level in Greco. And then he decided he wanted to fight too. And I'm like, wow, okay, really? It's a tough way to make a living, getting punched in the face for your money. But those same rules applied to fighting. Who is an amateur has 7 news outlets wanting to interview you.
I remember being at Bellingham that day, and I remember I've never seen such a crowd show up for the walkout.
And so that was all pressure on him, because he was dragging around that same last name. And Ryan took all of that with such grace and dignity. He really did an amazing job. So, but I applied those same rules. As an amateur fighter, I'd like, look, I got an amazing staff here and coaches. Rely on them. I'm not stepping in this unless you ask me to. And then it was eventually down the road, after his amateur career was coming to an end and he was foraying into the pros, that he started coming to me. Hey, what do you think of this guy? What's your take on tactically, technically, how to approach him, and asking me to be part of his process. And I certainly was proud and happy to be part of that process, but it had to be on his terms.
What do you think is harder, for you to fight or to watch your son fight?
Oh, way harder to watch him fight. Oh my God.
Because you really don't have control of any situation.
And it's a similar thing with coaching. Your coaches feel the same way, because they've invested in you. And they've spent a lot of time and energy hoping to see you succeed. And from the outside of the cage, you're helpless as hell.
Exactly. You're helpless, and you see more. You see the whole picture. Where the fighter,
the things they could do to get here, get there, do this, do that. And that's an important job as a coach. And why you need to get used to hearing that coach's voice in that practice environment. So on fight night, you hear it. Why is Eric so good? Because he has that rapport, he has that voice that you hear in the practice environment, and then that transcends into the competition environment.
He has a unique relationship with every individual fighter, because certain fighters won't react the same way. Like a Sean Strickland won't react the same way another fighter would, because some people need the negative criticism, some need the positive affirmation. And he recognizes these relationships of this is what they need in that.
Do I need to berate him to get him to step up and do what he needs to do, or do I need to handle him with kid gloves and massage him a little bit to get him to do what he needs to do?
Just make him feel good about it, kind of thing. Like, especially from yours, I know I changed my style from watching your fights, because I used to be somebody that was always told, get to side control, right? I fell in love with half guard, because you always spoke about using the cage as literally another teammate almost, because it can work that way. And I just felt, and so now I go into no-gi a lot, into gi jiu-jitsu, and that means nothing in gi jiu-jitsu. That's no points on the mat. It's a completely different game. So for the first year, because I would just get to that position, that's where I do all my work. All my fights, if I get to the ground, I'm getting there. I don't take mount, I don't take side, I get to half, quarter guard, and that became a bad habit for me in gi jiu-jitsu, but it was a habit that I picked up from you, and I use it in all my fights.
It's great because you have that leg to sit on. It's an anchor.
Exactly.
In wrestling terms, we'd call that a bottom leg Turk.
Okay.
and trapping a guy with that Turk, and now you can put him on his back and tilt him and do a lot of things. Well, in fighting terms, that gave me something to hang on to him with, to anchor him to me with.
That's how you would explain
and
it.
Staying perpendicular to him made his life miserable. And now every time he tried to sit up,
Every time he adjusts, he just
Kimura, to
readjusts.
sweep, to get a hold of me, I was going to make him pay for that. And that was a miserable place for a lot of people to be.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen you put guys in miserable places with that. So when, like, you know, I'm going to say that your era was the golden era of the UFC. I truly feel that, because I remember when you would know there's a card coming, you would make sure you make plans. You would make sure you call the restaurant, you get your reservation. You knew Randy's on the poster. Now it's not, like, I'm not gonna say it's a diluted product, but it's definitely a marketed, diluted.
They've saturated the market.
Saturated it like
There's
crazy.
1 or 2 shows every weekend now. And they're not marketed the same way they were. They aren't building stars the way they
building stars.
I was very fortunate to be in the era I was, and I agree, it was the golden era in many, many ways.
Yeah.
And they took time, certainly Zuffa took time to build these marquee names and guys, because they knew that was going to plant butts in the stadium seats and on those pay-per-view sales. And they were smart about it. Now it's a puppy mill.
It is.
Oh, you don't want to sign that contract? You want more pay? That guy will sign it.
Yeah.
And it's literally a puppy mill. They've saturated the market.
Yeah. Yeah. I have like a Mount Rushmore of the UFC. There's you on it. There's GSP, Anderson Silva, with a couple other guys on there. But like, I remember like that. I can remember those were the greatest times. That was the best product was being put out at that time, because you would always have to wait 30 to 60 days. To be a countdown building up to it. Their website would have timers, and you would wait, and it was like a dream to go to. At that time, they were at Mandalay Bay. At that time, to go to a UFC, and you would just get all.
I fought there 3 times.
Yeah, and it was just such a different product. And now, like, you know, like, I am an active MMA fighter, but I know what the product is now. Different promotions, more competition, which is good for the fighters for options.
Yes.
But you got to be a real diehard, which everyone's trying to get their own money. Like, everyone's running around living their own lives. It's hard to keep up with what's going on. And so a big name comes, like, you know, Conor McGregor comes back, he'll probably get all the eyes, and then the product will get diluted again.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's evolved, and
do you think it was better when it was
hybrid
private?
Sport now.
Yeah.
Too.
Do you think it was better when it was private? Like when it was under the Fertitas and not shareholders were involved. Like now it's a TKO stock.
Yeah, the takedown thing and merging with the WWE, in my mind, certainly creates a gray area. Was that a work or was that a real fight?
Right. Like I went to WrestleMania, and I remember the year before when they weren't all under the brand. The matches would last 10, 15 minutes. You would know when a match is about to end. There'd be a good finisher. Like I'm talking about like pro wrestling. This last WrestleMania I went, you wouldn't even know when the match is over. And the match would be, all the matches, they were saying some of them were like 8 to 10 minutes. And then there'd be 25 minutes of just commercials.
Wow.
And you just saw like they're just trying to get the money.
It's a business thing.
It's a business.
At the end of the
And
day.
the UFC was the
it is
same
a
thing.
business. Prize fighting is a business, but the UFC and the sport isn't using a prize fighting model. There's the big difference between boxing and MMA.
Of course.
The sanctioning body and the promoter is the same guy in MMA.
Yeah.
That's way too much power.
It's way too much power. Yeah.
Where in boxing, sanctioning bodies are separate entities controlled by independent people.
Yeah.
And promoters are a stable of fighters, and they want to buy for those rankings and those title fights with those sanctioning bodies.
Yeah.
And there's where the negotiation comes, and why boxers will make so much more money than MMA fighters. And then the Ollie Act on top of that. Well, what's Zuffa Boxing trying to do right now? Get the Ollie Act removed.
That's what they're trying to do
That's
right
the
now.
protections that boxers have enjoyed since '96 that protect them from promoters like Don King and Bob Arum, who took advantage back in the day of a lot of fighters like Mike Tyson. We all know those stories. So it's interesting that Zuffa Boxing is now trying to get the Ollie Act removed from protecting those
Yeah, of
boxers.
course.
And the boxers don't seem to realize. Now, I've heard Roy Jones, I've heard Nico Ali step up and speak out against this movement in this direction.
Well, that's his grandfather's act.
So Biagio trains with us at the gym. I mean, he's a great kid, and he chose MMA instead of trying his hand in boxing. He had more of a wrestling background. So Biagio's a great kid. I love watching him fight.
Yeah, he's a good kid. I've trained with him quite a bit. Extreme, always like both those brothers, Nico and him. It's
Yeah.
amazing the dynasty, the lineage that
Yeah.
the Muhammad Ali has left for them.
And they, like my son Ryan, drag that last name around with
Yeah.
grace and
Of course.
dignity. They do a great job of representing
Yeah.
that legacy for sure.
So you are somebody that spoke about fighter pay a lot, and me being a fighter myself, I know what the checks look like, and I know what the checks could look like. And you were almost a pioneer of that because you were doing it before anybody was really doing it.
Yeah, I had a rub with the old owners, SEG.
Yeah.
You know, I won the title in December of '97. Go in '98, they wanted me to fight Mark Coleman to defend the title. Mark was the first champ. It was going to be, I knew that was going to be a challenging match because I used my wrestling a lot, and he was a very good wrestler. I ended up getting injured. I popped my ribs training with Dan Henderson, getting ready for the Greco Nationals that year.
Yeah.
I couldn't fight him for the title. And they reneged on the contract that we had for that fighter pay.
Right.
I just spent 3 weeks after I won the title negotiating a new 3-fight deal with SEG. We had this incremental fight pay that was set up. That first fight would have paid me very well. They were struggling with the pay-per-views.
Right.
They got thrown out of People's Choice, which was the pay-per-view carrier.
Yeah.
Thanks to Senator McCain from Arizona,
Yeah.
who was connected heavily to boxing.
Yeah.
And so they were struggling, and they said, hey, look, you know, I agreed to fight Mark, but I wasn't going to, you know, I had to pull out because of the rib. He ended up fighting Pete and getting KO'd.
Right.
They came back. I was going to fight Boss.
Okay.
And again, they offered me a third of what the contract said they were supposed to pay me. And I said, heck, I'm ready to defend this title, but you got to pay me what's in black and white.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you choose not to defend your title then, and we're stripping you, and send me on my merry way. And that was what put Boss in the tournament that ultimately led to him beating Randleman and you know, winning the heavyweight championship after that tournament to fill the vacated title.
Right. And that never got resolved.
Never got resolved. They ended up selling the company to the UFC. I did come back and fight for them
Yeah.
after the Olympics
Yeah.
in Sydney.
Yes.
I fought Kevin Randleman
Right.
for the heavyweight title and put me back in the title spot. And then I was looking for new management at that time and had talked to Dana White that December
Okay.
about representing me because he was already representing Chuck and Tito.
Oh yeah, he was. Yes. Yes.
Going in, this was December 2020.
Right.
And went to Japan. I was cornering Dan, cornering Matt, talked with Dana there face to face about representing me. He called me after Christmas after we got back from that trip. He said, hey man, something big's coming down the pike. I won't be able to represent you. You know, I have to hand Chuck and Tito off to somebody else. I can't tell you what's coming, but you'll see very shortly. And literally February, Zuffa appeared, bought the company, the brand, and he was named the president of this new company that was going to be now representing the UFC brand.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, well, that was it. Well, I had already signed with new management, Battle Management,
Right.
Jeremy Lappin, Peter Levin, and they came from Hollywood. They believed the next big action star was going to come from the MMA community, from the MMA world. Just the authenticity of the sport and the articulation of these fighters that were fighting in this sport, they just believed that. So they signed a bunch of us to be our reps, our management, and immediately got into butting heads over those contracts with Zuffa.
Okay.
Here I am, their heavyweight champ.
Yeah.
I don't think they think I'm very marketable at 40 years old.
Right.
And so they just signed Pedro Hizzo to a 9-fight deal. Biggest deal anybody had ever seen.
9-fight deal.
And they want me to fight him first.
Right.
Right out of the gate. I held their feet to the fire with my new management over the ancillary rights and a bunch of the crap that's in this 17-page contract. Yeah. So they airbrushed me out of all that promotional stuff that they were putting together with Carmen Electra and the video game cover that they had from THC back then and all this stuff. They're like, oh, you don't want to just sign this stuff away?
Yeah.
Then we're taking you out of all this stuff. And this started this downhill slide and negative relationship with Dana and the Fertittas from the jump, right from the start.
Is it because you were probably one of the only fighters that kind of voiced it?
I'm one of the only ones that stepped up at that time and challenged them about these ancillary rights. I couldn't write a book, couldn't be in a movie, couldn't be in a video game or any of this stuff without their permission.
Right.
And that didn't sit right with me. And my management was educating me about what that stuff is potentially worth. So I was willing to put my career on the line and fight for that stuff, because in my legacy and my family, that stuff's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, I think
Every other fighter was willing to sign that stuff away.
a lot of fighters do that.
I didn't chirp about fighter pay till much later, till 05, 06.
Right.
And still, I was the only one that was chirping about what I was getting paid and all of that. So, and nobody else joined or jumped on that bandwagon in either of those situations.
Yeah.
It wasn't until much later that, John Stones, Francis Ngannou,
All those guys.
some of these other fighters started talking about the disparaging difference in fighter pay and any other modalities of support, health insurance, 401ks, all these things that every other professional athlete in our society enjoys, we do not enjoy as fighters in
To get any of that, you almost have to get hurt in the fight.
You absolutely have to get hurt in the fight. And a lot of fighters were fight injured because they knew they weren't going to get that stuff covered unless they walked up in that cage. And that's a travesty. That's a shame.
I had a close situation like that. So I was about to fly out to Singapore for my fight, and I went to Xtreme for my last sparring session, and I knew I was going to have a 16-hour flight. And you know how fighters are. Let's do a bit more. Let's do a bit more. Let's burn some calories. I'm trying to make the weight. And I blow my ACL out, completely tear it. And a session I didn't even have to be there for it. Then I'm still trying to walk it, and it was just brutal. I had to go to the UFC PI. They checked it. They're like, yeah, you're done, dude. I'm like, okay, well, surgery in Canada we're on the public system. So you're in a waiting list.
6 months probably.
6 months, a year, it could be longer.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, I got to go into this fight. I know I'm probably going to lose the fight. I got to get over there. But I couldn't even walk. I wasn't even able. So I never got to the fight. And then I got put on the list, but I was willing to do that. Like, you would never have a basketball player, a football player,
in hell.
a FIFA player. Nobody would. It's like a sprained ankle. You'll take the time off.
Yeah.
But fighters will go in there with torn ACLs and MCLs and shoulders, just so they can get the medical help afterwards.
They can say they did it in that cage, and then it'll be covered.
And then it's covered.
Yeah, I think because of my chirping, the UFC did finally come out with accident insurance.
Yeah, they had a little bit of that.
So if you got injured getting ready for a fight, you could make a claim and it would cover that. But they didn't have that for the longest time.
I don't even think they're running that too much, because we're getting hurt every day in training. Like, what claims are you going to do, right?
God forbid you should actually get sick, get the flu or something, and need a doctor's attention for that.
Yeah.
You're coming out of pocket for that stuff.
There's certain, like you were talking about the contracts, and I actually had a similar situation. I was about to sign to a big promotion in India, and MMA was just blowing up at that time.
Oh, wow.
I just won a big fight in Indira Gandhi Stadium, which was like 18,000 people, Bollywood stars there, everything.
Oh, cool.
But then the next morning, I win this fight against this guy from China, and that time India-China rivalry was here, so it became a very patriotic kind of fight. And the next day, there's a 17-page contract sitting there, and they're calling us in individually. And I see 6 guys go in, 2 minutes, sign, go in, 2 minutes, sign. Now I sit down, and I'm educated enough that, listen, I need to read this. And they were surprised that I was the first guy. I was like, I'm not signing. They're like, what? And my flight, I'm almost thinking they're going to cancel my flight and not even let me leave the country. They're like, no, sign this. Like, you're going to get this. You're going to get movie roles. You're going to get
strong-arming you.
Yeah. Oh, they were 100% strong-arming me. And I have a cousin who's a lawyer. He's a Supreme Court lawyer. And I sent it to him. He's like, bro, you were about to sign your life away. Like, even if you wouldn't open up a McDonald's, they were allowed profit from something that had nothing to do with fighting. They took your name. The word perpetuity is a very powerful name in contract. I didn't know what the word perpetuity, and then I went through every line. Almost every third line had the word perpetuity.
That means like, forever.
That means forever. Never knew what that word was. We'll never forget that word now.
That's hilarious.
When I read it myself, everything looked great because I'm just reading it, skipping over this word. It's just another word in a contract. When I sent it to him, he's like, you might want to, is this where you want to end your career, is fighting for this Indian promotion? I'm like, no, I want to make it to the big leagues, the UFC, one or something. He's like, you'll never be allowed to do that. They'll own you for the rest of your life in anything you do. And I didn't sign the contract, and it became like a big thing over there with them. And I know the fighters that did get, this was 2012. And I know fighters that are still stuck in that.
Wow.
And the organization doesn't even exist anymore.
You dodged a
It doesn't
bullet.
even exist anymore.
Wow.
And so exactly what you're saying, like some of those contracts are so powerful where fighters, like, where you're either a fighter or you're a business, and you got to be smart where you got to know that you're a business. Like you are a brand. Extreme
I am a
Couture,
brand.
Randy
I'm building a
Couture, you're
brand.
a
It took
brand.
me a while to recognize that.
Exactly. And
See
fighters
where I
won't
was
see that.
standing, but
Yeah.
eventually, thankfully, that light bulb went off, and I fought for those ancillary rights. I'm one of the few that has them, and owns his own, which has allowed me to write a book.
And own the
finally
profits and the.
did the first EA game with Fedor.
Yeah.
They're actually bringing me back in the new
I
version.
just
of the
saw
game
that.
now.
I
Yeah,
was
that
just
happened.
actually telling Joseph.
It was a weird call.
Yeah, that's
they
what I was
called me up, and I'm like, "Does Dana know you're calling me?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, Dana's more focused on do for boxing and this other stuff. He give us autonomy on this version of the game. We want you in the
So
game." I'm
EA
like,
owns that,
"Okay."
so it's not the UFC.
EA is the one that called me.
Okay. So you're like an unlockable character in
Yeah,
the next set.
yeah, it's crazy. It's wild, and I'm happy to be back in there. It's
Right.
the fans are going nuts. I'm seeing all the stuff on the social media.
No, I saw it today. I was like, oh, that's
and
so
they're
cool.
going crazy about it. So
That's
that's
awesome.
cool. That's good.
Yeah, it's exciting. Off of that, now, where does the Hollywood career come in? Because I had Jay on
Man,
here, and
yeah.
Jay, and we talk about past and identities, and with the way that I see it is, had you not been in the position you were, Jay's life wouldn't have headed in the way that.
It's funny how things work out, and I mean Jay's amazing. He's one of the OG. Him and Mike Powell were the first two guys that stepped foot in that gym when I opened that place, and we were at Jay Sect and on the set for the Ultimate
You were
Fighter.
telling me about that.
All of that when I moved here in 05. They were the first two to show up, helping me put tile on the floor and doing all this stuff to build this gym out. And then I was fortunate enough, as the light heavyweight champ, to get the call from the UFC. In the early 2000s, they were doing this movie with DMX and Jet Li called Cradle to the Grave.
I love that movie.
Now, I had done a Nations Bank commercial going into the 96 Atlanta Games, and that was a SAG gig.
Yeah.
And then I'd also done a Nike commercial called You Are So Beautiful about athletes and their scars that aired during the World Series for baseball. And the
That's huge.
checks I got from that, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And again, another SAG gig, but I didn't pay my dues and get SAG card or any of that. Why? I wasn't acting. Now this opportunity to play a character in Cradle to the Grave comes along. I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Chuck and Tito actually are in that movie as well.
Oh, are they?
And they fight each other
I need
in
to
that
go back and
movie.
watch that. I don't remember
And
them.
they wouldn't fight each other in real life at that time. So the screen was a little bit more stranger than reality at that time. But it was a very interesting process being on a set for a week for this one 7-minute scene in these underground cage fighting scenes, and they wanted authentic cage fighters. So I ended up fighting Jet Li. Let's go, chicken shit. That was my one line in the movie. I ran him over. Because I didn't, I don't know how to throw a movie punch. I know how to punch somebody. You can't punch Jet Li. I ended up running him over. He was very gracious. He was super, he laughed. He thought it was really funny. Thankfully, I didn't hit him with the punch. But I was supposed to throw a big right hand at him, and he's just supposed to get out of the way and dodge me. Well, he didn't
They don't
dodge
walk you
me.
guys through any of that?
Not really.
Because I was asking Jay that too. I'm like, how different is real fighting to screen fighting? And he's like, it's completely different because it's choreographed and you're doing it for the camera.
I have to know this line right here.
Exactly. So
that you're standing there and I go like this. I'm 6 inches away from you. But if you sell it, it looks like I cold cut.
Yeah, he did that with a slap right on camera.
And it's so cool. It is really neat. And when you do it right, it looks amazing. Obviously, I learned this the hard way and hurt some stunt guys and some actors early in my career because I hadn't figured all that part out yet. But that opened the door for me. And I was very intrigued by the whole process. It's like getting to go to Oz and pull back the curtain and see the guy pulling the levers, making all the smoke and fire. That's what being there on set feels like.
It's cool.
And then you see this finished product and you know how all that was made and how that magic happened. And it's really, really interesting. And now you've just made something that's going to last in perpetuity.
Exactly. 100%.
Forever.
No, forever.
I thought that was a pretty cool thing. And
we have, so in Vancouver, like you were saying, you were were just filming a movie up there too. But
Yeah,
a lot of movies get filmed out there. A lot of shows like Last of Us is being filmed out there.
Yeah, we were on the same sets as Last of Us.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I haven't been on set, but I watched it where literally a 2-minute scene can take 3 days to set up the set and everything. And I literally watched them set this thing up for 3 days with the grass and the screen. And then the scene is just 2 girls walking across the street.
Yep.
I'm like, what? I'm like,
Yeah, it's wild, man.
Like
It's
the
a
cost of that
process.
alone, I can't think of. And
Amazing process.
It's amazing
It's
process.
changing now with AI, with CG and CGI.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the things I liked about Pitfall because they did a lot of old school real effects in that movie.
Right.
95% of the movie is real effects, the old school effects.
Yeah.
Which the horror genre and the horror fans are so loyal. They're amazing.
Yeah.
So this crazy movie I shot 3 or 4 years ago in Langley
Yeah.
is getting traction and
Right.
going crazy right now. So it's pretty fun. I'm the psycho in the movie. I'm the slasher. It's a slasher
no way,
flick.
are you?
Yeah.
I gotta check it out.
But it's a slasher flick with not just a body count.
Okay.
They give flashbacks as to what makes me batshit crazy, and
Gotcha.
all the other people I'm hunting have backstories and stuff too that are part of why they came out to the woods in the first place. So
Right.
it's got a little heart and soul to it. It's a cool one. And they're talking about a sequel maybe. So
No
we'll
way.
see.
So where
I
can
hope
you
we
watch
get to go
that?
back to Vancouver.
Yeah,
I
if
love
you come to Vancouver.
I felt like I was home.
Isn't that awesome?
You know, the woods, the smells, the water, everything just felt so much like Seattle to me that I was like,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
having
'cause you're from
flashbacks.
Washington.
Yeah, I grew up in Seattle, Linwood.
Right. Yeah. So what was it like working on the Expendables?
Amazing.
That looked
Yeah, amazing group of guys. So much
Sylvester
fun to hang
Stallone,
with.
Jason Statham.
You know, putting on all your tack
Yeah.
to go out and shoot a scene. And it's kind of surreal being with all those guys that I grew up watching on screen.
Rocky.
Rambo and Rocky
Yeah.
and Die Hards and, you know, all the Terminator and all those movies that those guys were all in. But a great group of guys. Everybody was, oh man, I bet there was a lot of ego. And I'm like, no, actually it felt like old home week. We were
Really?
telling jokes and having a blast.
So where did you guys film that mostly?
The first one we filmed mostly in New Orleans,
Okay.
Louisiana, tax credits, just like you're
Oh, really?
saying. Why they're filming a lot in Canada,
Canada's huge
because they're
for
giving
this.
great tax credits.
Our
we,
dollar
we
sucks,
filmed
too.
2, 3, and 4 in Europe. 2 and 3, especially in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Oh, wow.
4 we did some in England, some in Bulgaria, and some in Greece. Avi Lerner's the big executive producer. He owns the studios in Sofia, Bulgaria. He was building a new studio in Thessaloniki, Greece.
Okay.
So we got to use both of those. 4 was much more of a Statham film than a Stallone film.
Okay.
I think just because Stallone was having some medical issues at the time.
Oh, really?
And he likes to do all his own stunts.
Does
And
he?
I don't think with the back surgery he'd just undergone, he could do a bunch of that.
Correct.
So I'm not sure if we get around to doing a 5, if he's going to step back up or if he's going to let Statham kind of carry the film like he did in 4. But I like 4. 4 was a lot of fun.
Do you guys like stay in touch and stuff? Like, do you guys stay in touch and stuff? Or
I've seen Terry Crews a bunch from 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I've spent a significant amount of time with Dolph
okay.
from all 4.
Yeah.
Dolph's got the new vodka out, and you know he's a great guy. I really enjoy spending time with him.
Yeah, he seems like a good
I've
guy.
seen Jason here or there. We've inducted him into the International Sports Hall of Fame
Okay.
5 or 6 years ago in Ohio at the Arnold, and
Right.
got to spend the whole weekend hanging out with him. He's a great guy too. Everybody on those films was so much fun to work with.
Which chapter do you think you enjoy more? The movie side of it or the athlete side of it, the MMA?
I feel like I'll always be an athlete and a wrestler, especially. I think I look through those wrestlers' eyes at every problem I try to solve.
Yeah. Is it because that competitive
Unfortunately, there are
fire?
things you can't do forever.
Yeah.
You know, your body, Father Time catches up with you, and your body starts to betray you a little bit. And my neck, you know, at 47, still fighting and competing at a high level, I was headed towards having to have a fusion and a neck surgery, and I didn't really want to do that.
Right.
So that, you know, the first time that subconscious voice starts chattering, hey, maybe you should look at something else. That's your body talking to you.
Yeah.
And you need to take those conversations seriously. And
Well, fighters have a tough time having those
they do.
conversations.
All athletes have a tough time walking away. It's a huge piece of your identity.
Yeah.
And I was so thankful that the acting thing had picked up in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So when I walked away in 2011, my next purpose and endeavor was already built in.
Yeah.
I had a clothing line, a gym, and a bunch of other stuff that I could focus on and direct my energy towards, and not flounder around and wonder, well, who the hell am I now? I'm not fighting anymore. This is who I am.
Yeah, people don't talk about that enough. Like that identity that you've carved for yourself for so long, then all of a sudden it does have to come to an end one day.
Yeah.
And
well, we all know the stats in our soldiers. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
You walk away from that uniform, whether it's your sports uniform or that OD green uniform, and that's a huge piece of who you are. And that purpose you had is a huge void that now you have to figure out how to fill. And the adrenaline, can you imagine, since 9/11, all those men and women that have walked out on a battlefield and had to be shot at or shoot at someone else, the adrenaline involved in that. So these guys come back, you get a week-long course on how to transition. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And now they flounder. They don't know who they are. They've lost that squad, those group of guys that they leaned on when the chips were down. And they struggle. They self-medicate. They adrenaline seek. And we all know the stats. They're not pretty. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
But you started something because of that, the MVP,
Yes.
the MVP Foundation. And I didn't really know what it was. And I'll speak on somebody on that, was that I would see Tim Lane there. I would see Tim at the gym, and he was one of the most nicest guys. One of the nice, always a smile, always, and I know he was a big part of that. And I was there at the gym when we found out that he committed suicide. And I never thought, and I still remember that day walking to the gym because we all had that gathering in that evening. You were there. Jay was at the Super Bowl. He came on Zoom and spoke to everybody. But I saw the community that you guys had built through this organization, this MVP organization. Like everybody came, and you can tell there was such a presence of everybody. And that was the whole goal of that organization, is to give hope.
Give these guys an outlet. Keep hope alive was
Keep
Tim's
hope alive
motto.
was literally the whole thing.
And Tim stepped up with that group because he had wounds he was carrying around that none of us knew about, nobody saw.
Exactly.
Because why? He always had that
always
smile on his
always
face.
laughing.
He was the best motivator. Just an amazing guy. Robert
He was
Paulus.
almost over happy.
Paulus is another one. The same thing. Very few knew the wounds that Robert was carrying around. And the same is true about our men and women that wore the uniform. Now they've lost their support structure. They've lost their purpose. And they're dragging around TBIs, concussive events, and horrific things they've seen and done in combat. It's a recipe for disaster for sure. And Tim was one of those guys. There's a ripple effect in that. Now with social media and as connected as we are this day and age as humans, there's this ripple effect. It's like you see your battle buddy who lives in a completely different state and he looks like he's doing great and he's at the family reunion, and then a week later or 2 weeks later he puts his gun in his mouth and he's done. And you're like, holy shit, I thought he was doing great. And then you turn that on yourself and you start to analyze yourself, and there's a ripple effect of that we have to change. And we have to make it okay, whether you're an athlete or a soldier, a fighter, to ask for help. Our men in this society are told not to show vulnerability, told not to show weakness. Don't show emotions. God forbid you even have them. Don't show them. And that's the biggest lie we've ever been told. And we have to change that narrative.
I think it's like, we don't think about that because it's the environment that we almost, like, I've never been on the battlefield, but I've been in MMA gyms long enough. And I remember after Tim's passing, it was the first time after our training session, everybody got together. Ray's like, listen, guys. And Ray and Jay were like, if you guys are going through stuff, talk to us about it. That's never, like, you never see that amongst pro fighters. You never, it's like, okay, guys, we're done. Took the shots, go home. Let's push, grind. Don't be a pussy, hide your emotion. Like,
there you go.
It becomes that. And you don't realize there's so many battles. As soon as they pick up their gym bag, everyone's going to these different chapters and stories.
It's up to us as men to change that narrative. To make it okay, to say, hey man, I'm struggling with this and I need help.
Yeah.
And reach out to your brothers, those guys you sweat and bleed with, because one of them has already been in that situation and found his way through.
Yeah.
That's what MPP stands for, Emerging Veteran Players.
Of course.
That's what we bring to the table. We're in 9 cities now across the country. I'm very happy to be the Nevada chapter in the gym here with Xtreme Couture.
And you made a movie about that too, did you not?
Yeah, Nate Boyer directed and wrote a script called MVP, the movie, and it's really, really well done.
Right. And it's talking about an athlete that kind of losing his identity.
Losing touch with his identity.
Yeah.
It's harder to get through to the athletes. It's easier to get to the soldiers
Is it really?
that don't have this bravado.
Why do you think that is?
There's a bravado. There's an ego involved there. Oh,
You
I
would
was in the NFL. I'm not struggling with anything. I'm okay.
That's
and it's a
interesting
lot
'cause
harder to get those guys to admit that they're struggling with walking away from their sport, walking away from that uniform, and transitioning and finding that new purpose in civilian life.
That's interesting.
It's been much harder to get through to the athletes that struggle with those same things than it has been the soldiers.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know like soldiers were easier to talk to because I haven't been around them. But I remember when I tore my ACL, I was just like, I went from this high level athlete that was training nonstop to my wife helping me go to the bathroom and get me out of bed.
Yeah.
And my whole identity just shifted. And I was just like, who am I anymore? Because all I knew was me as my fight name. And me being one of the top Indian fighters was, everybody's like, when's your next fight? When are you fighting? When are you representing us? And that was it became my most hated question.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it would hurt me. And I noticed my identity shift. And it wasn't until like maybe 6 months ago, I'm starting to find my way, which is why we're sitting here.
Yeah.
We're doing this. I'm like, I need to find something that gives me purpose. Because I did go down that dark road.
Yeah.
I was finding myself with thoughts and places where I was sitting going, who am I anymore?
Yeah.
I don't know how to be a husband properly. I don't know how to be a son properly. Because my whole identity was about winning victories and bringing these victories home to my family, and I give them something to celebrate. Now I'm not celebrating anything.
And you're expressing it beautifully. That's exactly the trap that we get locked in.
Yeah.
And changing that narrative is up to us as men, for sure. To say, no, I'm not okay. I'm struggling.
Right.
The life has changed, and I don't really know where to go or how to get through this and what to do. And you start drinking, you start self-medicating, numbing those feelings.
Of course.
And you go to the doctor, and the first thing he wants to do is slap an opioid or an antidepressant on you that have those side effects listed in the. Of
course.
And the next thing you know, you're looking down the wrong end of your pistol.
And if you're not well aware of what you feel inside, it's easy to get caught on those. Because I did take antidepressants and I felt the numbness from them. I'm like, I'm not happy, I'm not sad, this isn't me. And the way that I would describe it to people was, it's like if you have a hole in your roof, you put a tarp over top, the hole never got mended. It's just underneath that tarp.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. And eventually the Band-Aid comes off and the hole's still there. And I would always feel that. I'm like, I don't really know what to feel. I'm just kind of sitting here in a void.
Yeah.
And you're just in that void till it wears off.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to get off of this. I can't be on
We have
this.
amazing fans in MMA, but this has become the litmus test for who's a genuine friend that knows me and who's just a fan.
Right.
Not knocking any of that.
Yeah.
But none of my real friends ever want to talk to me about fighting.
Right.
That's just something I did.
Yeah.
It's not who I am.
Right.
They know me when I was riding a 10-speed to school every day, driving a Ford Escort,
Yeah.
not some guy that was on pay-per-views and all this other stuff. And that kind of becomes a litmus test in connections with people.
Right.
The people that want to talk to you about and I'm happy to talk about that stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
It's part of my journey and something that I managed to set goals and achieve in, which is a rare thing. And, but my friends don't talk to me about that stuff because they already know that stuff. And they're more interested in the daily ongoings of how I'm existing and how I'm feeling and all of that, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah. Like for myself, I became a father a year ago. And Dad just gave me a completely different purpose. And I always heard fathers always telling me, it's gonna change your life, it's gonna do this. For me, everything was about fighting, everything. My whole marriage was on pause, and I would disappear for 3 months, and vacations and enjoyment of life all revolved around whether there's a fight camp or a fight. Now my son comes along, and I'm like, ew, he doesn't give a shit. Like he does, and it's hard for me to even think about going back to fighting because I don't want to miss those moments with him.
Yeah.
That
You can find that middle ground.
It's that middle ground. So jiu-jitsu is giving me that middle ground.
Yeah.
Because jiu-jitsu is giving me that middle ground because you don't have to train 3 times a day. You don't have to do all that recovery. It's like, you know, I know dads that work 9 to 5s and go do a jiu-jitsu tournament on the weekend.
Yeah.
The first couple I did, I was like, I'm not ready for this because I was so used to that regimen of that MMA fighter. I'm like, I barely go to training. I can't make it what I do for MMA. They're like, no, dude, just sign up. You just go. Like, there's no share dog record. No one's counting your wins or losses. Most of the people that show up to these things don't even know you're there. So I went to the Worlds and I'm like, there's 70 matches happening at one time. Nobody gives a shit that I'm here, except for the people I brought. And it was such a different environment and I fell in love with it. I'm like, okay, I can be a father.
See, that was wrestling for me for years.
Right.
And, you know, chasing that dream and enjoying that.
Right.
That was my happy place. The rest of the world goes away when you're in that training environment or in that competition. You don't have time to think about bills or any other stressors in your life.
Of course.
The rest of it goes away. That's why it becomes such a sanctuary for so many.
Yeah. Yep. And like even with wrestling, there's RAF.
They're doing great things.
It's getting people really interested. Like it's got me really interested in wrestling.
Yeah, it's fun. They're doing a great thing. Finally, several people have tried this to bring up along some form of professional amateur wrestling, and RAF's really the first one to get it right.
Right.
And they're using some marquee names from the MMA world to see the crossover.
Right.
And I think that's smart. I think USA Wrestling missed the boat.
Right.
In the early days of the UFC, they wanted to join forces.
Of course.
And the UFC pushed, or the USAW pushed back, said, no, we don't know if this sport's good. We don't want to be associated with it. And they distanced themselves from the early days of the UFC, not recognizing that this literally made wrestling a martial art, a status that it did not have before.
Right.
And they should have embraced that, in my opinion.
Well, you got some of these guys, like, you know, you got Armin, who can't seem to get a fight in the UFC and is competing on RAF every single week and growing his following, his brand, and getting more notoriety. He's streaming, plus he's doing these tournaments. I'm almost like, I don't even think he cares if the UFC gives him a fight. They always got him sidelined.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and he found a completely different avenue, and I tune in to watch him for wrestling.
I've been watching it. I like it a lot.
It's fun. It's fun to watch. Yeah, so one of the brands that you built was Affliction, or Xtreme Couture.
Xtreme Couture clothing. Affliction makes our clothes. I was one of the first brand ambassadors for Affliction.
Yeah, I used to have the whole collection. Whole collection. Everybody had the collection. They were actually banned in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were, because it would always be gangbangers that were wearing them. So they connect, and also MMA was illegal for a long time. Which is why I was fighting in Bellingham, which I would always have to come to. That's why that's why I was always in Washington doing my fight, because MMA wasn't even legal where I was.
Doing a lot of stuff for the Fight Network back in the day, and it wasn't legal to have a fight in Toronto, one of the bigger markets in the Canadian in Canada.
And anything fight related gear, you couldn't get into clubs, you couldn't get into places. Like gang task force would come and talk to you.
Wow.
Yeah, it became like a big thing, so nobody would be wearing them. And it became a banned item. And I remember I used to have the whole collection, and it was my favorite thing to collect.
It's making a resurgence now with the TikTok crowd.
I've seen that.
The graphics, they love the graphics and the jeans and the way they cut their jeans and all that.
And are you still part of that?
I work with, I'm still under that moniker. They still make Xtreme Couture clothing.
Okay.
They have a new subsidiary under them called Howitzer Clothing. That's a give back brand for first responders, law enforcement, and military charities.
Okay.
So I do a lot of stuff with Howitzer Clothing.
Okay.
And it's a brand I like to wear too. It's not the crazy graphic driven stuff.
Yeah, there was a period
I got a little old for that stuff.
There was a period for that. Like, my wife would never let me wear that now, but in my 20s, it was.
Hey, I wore it a lot.
You got the shiniest, bedazzled shirt that Xtreme was putting out that year.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. One of the fights that I think all of us old school MMA fans, the golden era, was the Fedor Randy Couture fight. I even would do sprints at Xtreme, and that is that poster with the treadmill faces.
And Affliction,
and I always look at it, I'm like, that's the fight that never happened. So what happened with that?
Well, I mean,
because that would have been one of the biggest fights ever.
I pushed the UFC and Dana and Lorenzo to get him signed.
Right.
Most of the rankings had him as the #1 athlete in the world and me as #2.
Yeah.
And had a big meeting with them. And I said, look, this is the guy I want to fight.
Right.
You know, they got him ranked #1. Well, they came to an agreement over money. But M1 Global, who kind of owned Fedor's destiny, wanted a co-promotion, and the UFC said, no way, we're not putting you over. We're not going to do a co-promotion with anybody. We're the show. If he wants to, we'll sign him for this amount, and we want him to fight Couture. But they wouldn't do it unless they did a co-promotion. So the whole thing fell apart. And then that tanked my relationship even further with Zuffa and Dana and company. I knew they weren't being honest with me about a bunch of things. And they couldn't make the one fight happen that I wanted to make happen.
That was a big fight.
So I kind of went out on my own, left the company, resigned my heavyweight title, and tried to chase the Fedor fight on my own. They filed injunctions and a bunch of stuff.
That was going to be on Affliction?
Well, Affliction, because of me resigning my title and trying to make that fight happen. Mark Cuban stepped up and was trying to help me make that fight happen. Because of that, they banned Affliction from sponsoring any fighters.
I noticed that.
You know, Xtreme Couture clothing company and Affliction clothing company, I think combined between us, we were sponsoring 30 fighters in MMA at that time.
Wow.
And so they banned us both, which pissed Todd Beard off, who was the owner of Affliction at that time. And Todd was one of those crazy guys like, oh, okay, you're going to ban me? The hell with you, we're going to do our own show. And that's why the Affliction cards came about, was because of the ban. And what do they call their first card? Banned.
Oh, yeah, they did.
That's how that all came about. And of course, they signed Fedor, but they filed injunctions to keep me from going anywhere else and fighting anywhere else. The UFC did. Even though I believe in my contract, I would have been able to free and clear had they not filed the injunctions and forced me to go to court to prove that I was free and clear, which was going to take time and money, which was their goal. You know, I had to step back from that. I chased that for a while and spent a lot of my own money.
Fans were chasing that for a while.
I spent a lot of my own money through legal fees and stuff to try and find a way to make that fight happen. And at some point, I knew what they were doing. They were trying to drain me of any funds that I had. I don't have bottomless pockets.
Yeah, of course.
And so they do, to be honest. So I had to make a decision at some point and spend a significant amount of my own money to make that fight happen. And I had to walk away from it and just say, okay, all right, I have the window for my fighting and training, the way I'm used to fighting and training is closing. I need to let this go and just continue to fight and finish out my career. That's what put me in. I came back to the company, let it all go, ended up matched up with Brock Lesnar, and that's where that whole thing started. So
that was a big fight too, though.
Very big, because he brought all the eyes from WWE.
Did they take care of you in that situation?
Those were some of the biggest pay-per-views the company had ever had.
It was,
So, you know, I did well through that. Obviously, I would have been happier to win that fight, and I felt like I was on my way to winning that fight. I had him where I wanted him. I think if he hadn't grabbed the fence in that first round and hit his back, it might have been a different night. Who knows? Would have been very interesting to see how he dealt with me on top of him, hammering away on him. But we'll never know. It is what it is, and you know, he's a big dude, a big athletic dude,
that's what I was gonna say,
a rare human for sure.
When you stand across him from the cage, like, you know, I always notice the opponent always looks bigger on fight day because now they're rehydrated, they got him bigger, and you're like, man, he didn't look that big at the weigh-ins. What did he look like staring at?
290. I mean, oh my God. And not just a big slothering 290. He was a big athletic dude.
But you were also part of like one of the first cross like combat sports, like the James Toney.
I was honored and excited to get the nod on that one. I think they were originally talking to Chuck. And I think Lorenzo stepped in as like, guys, Chuck might actually try to strike with James Toney.
Oh, they didn't want that?
No, they wanted. It was an MMA engagement,
but they
not a boxing match. And James had great boxing. Let's be honest.
No, he does, of course.
I mean, that shoulder roll left hook is as good as anybody in the business. What, he had 6 world championships in boxing at different weight classes. I mean, he was a very good boxer. So it was a silly idea to think you were going to stand in front of him and try to test his boxing.
What were the odds?
They knew I wasn't going to do that.
Of course not.
I didn't want to do that with Chuck, let alone, you know, James Toney. So I think I ended up getting the nod because he knew I was going to rely heavily on my wrestling ability. Put this guy on the ground and let's see how much MMA he's learned.
Which wasn't
Wasn't much.
which was like day one of what you learn.
Yeah,
when you go
don't
to-
do the dying cockroach.
What were the odds going into that? Do you know?
I don't even remember. I never paid attention to that stuff. You got to put the blinders on.
If I knew sports betting at
let
that
all
time.
that stuff go away and just stay laser focused on the problem at hand.
But there's no way nobody thought that wasn't going to go the way it did. Unless he caught you with a lucky punch.
Except for maybe James. And you know, I had to take James seriously.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's this guy going to do? He knows I'm going to take him down.
Yeah.
He knows I'm not going to stand around and try and bang with him.
course.
So he knows I'm probably going to try and shoot a double.
Yeah.
So he's either trying to try and time an uppercut or time a knee.
Right.
Because those are pretty simple things to learn.
Yeah.
And try to catch me coming in and hope to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I'm dumb enough to try and stand up with him and strike with him.
Is that what the training camp was the entire time?
The camp for me was sharpen up my defensive skills.
Okay.
And make sure I could protect myself. And then Neil Melanson was like, man, I think you need to shoot a low single.
Of course.
No, don't shoot a double. Maybe he will catch you with an uppercut or catch you with a knee.
Yeah.
Let's go lower. And I think, well, I shot a great low single in college. Let's dust it off. And it's interesting because trying it in camp with just pure strikers, it will work every time.
Yeah.
Trying it with anybody with a mixed game that knew how to grapple or knew jujitsu, they would step out of that low single and now I'm laying down there on my stomach like, oh shit. And I thought, man, maybe this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Neil was like, no way, man, this is gonna work. I know it's gonna work. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. And then we warmed up and walked out. We were first in the cage. I think. I can't remember.
No, you guys were.
But James walks out.
Yeah.
And he's wearing those neoprene boots. I got the biggest smile on my face. And I looked at Neil and he smiled at me and winked. And we knew we now had grip.
Right.
There's no way he's getting out of this low single.
Yeah.
Because barefoot, there's nothing to hang on to down there. I got wrestling shoes in a wrestling match.
Yeah.
That gives me friction and something to hang on to. And if you know how to sprawl or know how to step out of a single with no shoes on, you're going to get out of it. And James didn't know. And
He didn't know. He lost balance pretty quick on that.
yeah, let me climb right to mount.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted me to just pound on him because of all the smack he taught.
Yeah.
But the arm triangle was always my favorite. I learned that from Neil and sharpened that. That was the most common submission for me to get was that arm triangle.
That's actually for me too.
And that's what I ended up getting him as. So, and Neil gave me my black belt after that fight.
After tapping out James
After
Stoney.
choking out James Stoney. Some people critically criticize this for that. Like, you give him a black belt after choking out a boxer? What the hell?
That's awesome. So now looking back at like Xtreme Couture, would you have ever thought it would become what it is? Like you're getting fighters from all over the world. You got champions out of there.
Yeah.
When you laid the tile at the beginning, did you ever think that's what it would become? Because it used to be a bigger gym of bigger fighters.
You know, this is a fighter. We don't think in those terms.
You don't think in those terms. You just gotta start something.
Just laser focused on what you need to do
Of course.
to accomplish that goal, to get to the top in that weight class. And you don't think in those terms.
Yeah.
And we went through a big lull after I retired. You know, a bunch of guys scattered to the wind.
Right.
You know, Syndicate was offering free memberships. A bunch of the guys, you know, jumped ship and went there. You know, I wasn't in there grinding out camps anymore. We lost our head coach to a heart attack.
Right.
You know, I was trying to get Dennis Davis moved in, and I was trying to put Dennis over. And you know, Dennis was a great fighter, very technical fighter, but he didn't have all those accolades. He wasn't a world champ necessarily.
Yeah.
And so it was hard putting him over with all the guys. And then Follis, you know, Dennis reached out to Follis. Follis had come back to Vegas from Oregon. He went through his own divorce and kind of moved to Vegas. You know, that was Dennis's mentor was Robert. Hell, he was my mentor in many ways.
Right.
So Dennis came to me. He's like, man, I will take a cut and pay if we can bring Follis on to staff. And I said, okay, well, that's really the only way we can afford him. So if you're willing to do that to get him in there, then let's do it. And we brought Follis in and made him the head coach. In the gym, he brought Misha in immediately, who he was coaching. So now we're in title contention right out of the gate. You know, and it just kind of started building from there. Dennis started getting the kudos for how good he is, and
Nice.
Robert was instrumental in helping him find his footing and create all the things that Dennis has done for the program and created. And Eric came on. We lost John as the gym manager.
Right.
And we had Pernille for a little while, who was Martin Campman's wife.
Okay.
And then she got pregnant with their first kid and needed a break from the stresses of managing an MMA gym.
There's not even.
And we opened the position up. It was hard to keep gym managers in there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the guy that has to hold all these guys accountable for paying their dues
It's hard
and
to
doing
hold
their
fighters.
thing.
I know it is.
It's a tough job.
Yeah.
And Eric has this unique rapport with everybody there where he can lay the law down and draw those boundaries and those lines and hold people accountable, but still have that friendship with those guys, and they respect him. So Eric has done an amazing job of elevating that position to where it is now, not only as the gym manager, but as the head coach for the MMA team. And Dennis has flourished and
really
blossomed
has,
as a very amazing technical coach. And we have a plethora of great coaches in different realms and styles in there that do an amazing job of building the program there. So
And you bring in so many different faces from all over the world. And I think COVID definitely helped, I think, when everybody had to kind of get in here because like Apex was trying to hold fights.
yeah.
And then nobody kind of left. A lot of these New Yorkers, like the Alderman Sterlings and stuff, they never ended up going back to New York. And
Yeah, we've attracted a whole plethora of guys from all over, which is great, amalgamating all these different skill sets and input from so many different perspectives.
And you guys never shut down really during COVID.
Well, we had to keep the back door open because Dana made the Apex and had Fight Island and was still doing shows. I had pros that had fights that still needed camps, and that means they needed training partners and a facility. So we kind of had to keep it open on the down low. And let guys in through the back door.
That was the most fun time. For me, that was one of
the...
the...
camps in and get their training in, or they were going to suffer.
Yeah, that was one of the funniest times for me, honestly, being down. Like, I know COVID was a tough time for a little bit, but with everything locked down and you could go for a bike ride on the strip and there's not a single
Nobody
car.
down there,
It was, and then you come here and you're going to the back.
All the windows and
everything has paper on it, and you're just acting like there's nothing going on.
Yeah, it was wild.
Where do you think the next chapter of Xtreme is going now? Like Sean just won the title again.
Sean just won his second title. I'm not sure if Misha's officially retired now.
Who, Misha?
Misha, yeah.
Yeah, Misha, yeah.
I think she officially retired now, and she's focused on her podcast, and I've been on that. She's doing very,
being
very
a mother
well.
and being...
Yeah, and her kids, and Francis is still doing his camps in there and still looking at
And Ryan manages it now.
What's that?
Ryan runs it now?
Ryan, I signed it over in 2020. Ryan retired from fighting.
Yeah.
He said, Dad, I'm going to retire from fighting. Emily and I really want to get our family started.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I can do that and fight at the same time. And I knew at some point when he left the bank job to come down and be the gym manager, that's why he originally came to Vegas.
Right.
And then 4 months later, he's like, Dad, I really want to fight. I'm like, oh man, all right. So I knew at some point the gym would be his.
Yeah.
And so when he announced to me that he wanted to retire, he was starting the family, I immediately went to my living trust and carved out the gym and signed the gym over to him and made him the new owner. Fresh eyes, changed the logo, changed the interior, changed the mats.
Right.
And him and Eric have an amazing rapport. Him and Dennis get along very, very well. Yeah. Ryan's one of those guys that has that unique ability to just almost get along with anybody. He's a math whiz, so the numbers are
really,
he was always really, really good at that. You got a degree in math, for crying out loud. And now you want to get punched in the face? What the hell? But
I was an accountant before I became an MMA fighter.
Oh yeah,
so
Chuck is an accountant. He's got a degree in accounting as well.
It's something about the numbers that drive us to the point, be like, you know what? I'd rather get locked in a cage and someone take my help.
But I think you look
at
indigenous to MMA.
Yeah.
All these guys that are fighting and training in this style of professional sport are collegiate athletes, collegians in martial arts that have degrees in something, and this was their opportunity to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
It's a unique demographic in MMA.
Yeah, it's actually
where I think boxing, those guys were fighting to get out of the inner city and get out of their neighborhoods. We were college student athletes that,
Yeah,
we get to be a professional. Wow, and this is our foothold in professional athletics.
yeah, that is actually an interesting demographic. No, I never actually thought about that. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but it fits. This is a thinking man's game. This is not a rage game. This is kinetic chess.
It is.
Against a living person in real time.
Yeah.
There's nothing more. And that's why I think soldiers have an affinity for us as MMA fighters. They do combatives and learn about a bunch of that stuff in their training to get ready to go and do combat, and that we share a warrior spirit in that way. So it's a natural fit for the MVP program. And there's a camaraderie and a synergy between soldiers and mixed martial artists for sure.
That's awesome. So I want to end on this. I want to end on that I always ask this one question, and I've watched your career flourish. I've watched, like, a lot of my own memories are attributed to you. What is the legacy of Randy Couture? The father, the athlete, the wrestler, the MVP organization. What do you want to be remembered for if you and me were to die today?
I think if the fans remember me for anything, I tried to keep it simple, be authentic, just be who I am, and represent this blossoming sport that was misunderstood with integrity, and approach it as a true professional and a true athlete. And I hope that's what I'm remembered for, honestly. I tried to keep it very simple. I just was who I was. I tried to represent both the sport of wrestling, which I'd done my whole life, and then eventually you get pushed up into that spot to represent the sport of MMA too. I just tried to be as authentic as I could be about that. And I think the fans appreciated that. It didn't matter whether I won or lost. I wasn't getting ragged on online and all that.
Of course.
They were kind of behind me either way, which was unique, certainly in a combative sport. You got a ton of fans when you're winning, and then the second you lose, they're all piling on. It's a horrible place, I think, for a lot of people to be. And I never really felt that.
I think it's also the era you came into. I think Twitter, social media wasn't really big.
Wasn't as big, MySpace really didn't.
MySpace, like nobody was gonna get on a MySpace forum and talk shit about Randy Couture, right? So nobody was gonna start a forum on that. But
that's probably a true statement. But again, I think I just tried to keep it simple and represent it with integrity.
For myself, you've definitely done all those things, and your identity and who you are has been it's been so inspirational to watch. Like, since 97, 97, some of my favorite fights, the Vitor fight, the Chuck Liddell fights, and just watching it. And it wasn't just solely even the fight. It was like I can always attribute to sitting with certain family members. Some of them are still here, some of them have passed, but you were the focus of those moments. And I remember when, like, there's 2 times I got starstruck walking into an MMA gym. One was when I started training at TriStar GSP.
Oh, wow.
And then we walking into Xtreme Couture and you coming in to teach the Wednesday wrestling one day. I'm like, so it's like, I felt that, and you truly always will hold a place in my career, in my moment. Like I said, before I was supposed to walk out, we always say you put the dots backwards. If I chicken shit it out, and there was nobody that I just watched win the title going, listen, just go out there and live your best moment, which was you. This moment, probably, I wouldn't be in Vegas probably for any other reason. I probably wouldn't have the family that I have. Like, it's really almost everything in my life completely changes based off just a few words that you gave me. Like the butterfly effect, we always say. And I'm sure you've done that in so many people's lives by just doing what you do. The MVP organization, just being Randy Couture, the fighter, the father.
I appreciate that very much.
It's been an absolute honor. It's been an absolute honor for me.
And I think intuitively, I think we're always planting seeds in how we represent ourselves in the public. And a lot of times you'll never see that seed grow to fruition, but you still planted it by how you approach something. And again, I think that's the integrity part of it, and trying to keep it simple and be who you are. And
like they always say, you always leave a little piece of your soul in places until there's none left of it, and that's what's going to grow when you're long gone. And I think you truly do that, from the gyms to everything. But it's been a huge honor, sir.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.